All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Hutek, CEO of the Coalition, for anybody that may not know who I am. Of course, we've got the full staff aboard today as well. We wanted to take an opportunity just to touch base, and really this is going to be a nice little webinar for us that we're going to be able to tape, and then we'll publish it as well. So any providers that might be on this now certainly can take this information and send it to any other of their fellow providers maybe that are not on it. And in the meantime, we will also publish it for the sake of those that aren't on it so that they can view it at a later time if they should have any questions. Today's meeting really is about the $50 million incentives that the legislators put out last session for the purpose of raising rates across the state. The general idea was that there were some large discrepancies in how some of the coalitions were paying their providers, and they felt the need to put some minimum thresholds in for certain age groups. So it's a real benefit to us that the state legislature incorporated this $50 million into the budget for us. The biggest thing I think with this was that even though it was enacted during the last legislative session with the idea that it would go into effect July 1, the state never got around to doing it. So here we are in February going into March, and the state has finally said, we're going to go ahead and release those funds so that coalitions can do this. Now, the difference is that had they incorporated this in July 1st, that $50 million from the state would have lasted for the year, and the raises to the rates would have been probably half of what they're going to be now, because they still need to spend this $50 million within the fiscal year. So rather than having a whole year to spend the $50 million, now they only have a half a year to spend the $50 million, which means that the rates have got to be twice as high as they probably would have been for an increase. On the backside, what that means is in order for these rates to be sustainable next year, they're going to have to get $100 million extra to cover this cost, rather than the $50 million if they would have incorporated it earlier in the year. So the good news is the state is going to be looking to put another $100 million into the school readiness dollars for the coalitions. So what does that mean for Polk County? In Polk County, that means that we received about 5% addition to our normal standard, our normal school readiness dollars that the state provides to us. So this was about a 5% addition to us. And these are not dollars that we are spending, but these are dollars that have to go directly to the providers. So it's a really good thing. And as you'll see in a moment, when we go through this a little bit more specifically, you'll see that some of these rates took some pretty significant jumps, where other rates maybe did not take that significant of a jump. But we will be looking at what's going to happen with the state budget this year to take a look at, a lot of concerns. There's some good things happening right now with the legislature as far as trying to allocate additional dollars for early learning, which is very promising. But on the other hand, we also recognize that the state's budget and income for the year has taken a tremendous hit because of tourism and taxes based on COVID. So it's still kind of up in the air to determine whether or not we anticipate getting a whole lot more funding next year. But I did want to say that in the event that the state does manage to adequately fund early childhood programs across the state, that the ELC will be looking sometime in the next 2 to 3 months to see if there are additional dollars available to maybe help level out some of the discrepancies that have now been created by adding these extra dollars. We know that there are some gaps now that we would like to close and bring some of the other levels up as well. But that's going to really depend on what the state legislature says we have with our dollars. So we are very seriously looking at all of this information. We're doing what we can to help raise those rates for providers. We know it's been a very difficult year There's been a lot of obstacles. There's been a lot of issues with low attendance, and there's been a lot of things going on. So we are certainly attuned to what's going on. We will continue to look, and when the opportunity presents itself for us to put more money in the providers' high ends in pockets, we most certainly will do that as well. So without further ado, I'd like to move this meeting forward. I'm going to turn it over to Kenneth Franklin, our VP of Operations, who oversees all of the work that the providers do with contracts and fees and those kinds of things. And we're going to take a look a little bit deeper about what's going on with it. And then after that, we're going to open it up for questions and answers. And if anybody has anything, we will certainly address it then. So Kenneth, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Mark. Like Mark was talking about, obviously we have some new rates. And those rates from the Office of Early Learning, due to that additional funding, take effect January 1st. We would rather have had this in November and be able to do proper amendments and things like that before January 1st. But we'll take it as we can get it, and we will start working on doing amendments to everyone's contract, and we will date those as of January 1, those amendments. So I just kind of wanted to walk through the email that I sent just to kind of clarify if anything, just kind of reiterate some information as well. But next steps in the coming weeks, contract staff is working diligently right now to prepare amendments for every single school readiness provider. So because we are changing our rates, that means every contract that we have for school readiness has to be amended. So this is going to take some time. So contract staff is starting to work on that now. So for what you need to know as a provider, the next steps. So in the coming weeks, the ELC is going to be preparing those amendments. And once that is done, then once we prepared it, then one of our contract staff will be reaching out to you as a provider to let you know that your contract amendment is ready to be signed. Once that contract amendment has been signed, then we have to sign it on our end as well. That will actually take those new approved rates back to January 1st, which you've already been paid for. You've actually already been paid January with those new rates, but it'll actually get it formally in your contract to match what you were already paid for January. Now, a lot of people have rates that might be less than what our new rates are, and that's fine. If your rate is less than what our new rate is as of January 1st, then it would pay the lesser of the two. So if our new rate is, for you is $42 a day, that's our new rate. Your rate's 40, then the coalition would have paid 40 for January, and we'll pay 40 for February as well. So a lot of people might want to increase their rates to match our rates, which is completely reasonable. Obviously that will be affecting your private pay parents. So they would, obviously need that notice as well, because their rates would be increasing too. But what we're going to do is we're going to ask everyone to not submit any rate changes until your contract amendment has been certified. So once your amendment's prepped, coalition staff has reached out to you, you've signed it, then we've signed it, your amendment has been certified. At that point, if you do wish to change your rates to increase them or whatnot, then you can go into your profile and request a rate change at that point, and that will increase your rates. As long as you're able to do that in the month of March, we will actually retro that rate change back to March 1st. Typically, that's not our practice. Typically, our practice is once you request new rates, those rates will not go into effect until the date your amendment is certified. But because we kind of are going back on our rates, we're going to allow providers to go back to March 1st for any new rate requests that they desire, as long as they get that as long as your amendment has been submitted in March, and then your request was submitted through your profile in March after, and only after, your amendment was certified. So just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that. Also, another thing to think about in these provider rate increases, which obviously is a lot to think about and be able to process and handle, but due to the rate change being effective January 1, if parents were paying any type of differential rates, during that time of January, or even now in the month of February, if they're paying differential rates based upon what our old rates are, if our rate increased and that differential rate for that parent would have been less, then the providers will need to reimburse those parents, either in credit to the parent or reimbursement to the parent for those differential rates. Now, the co-payments, I don't believe have changed. So the co-payments, the required parent co-payment would be the same. So did want to kind of highlight that as well. In our rate sheet that we put out there, it has the rate for family child care homes. It also has the rates for the licensed or exempt centers. So there's two different rates now. Typically in the past, we didn't have different rates for family child care homes and centers. Now with this new rate plan that we've been given, there are differences. So for example, for an infant, a licensed family child care home is receiving 42, a center is receiving 36. Those are some of the inequities that Mark was talking about earlier, that potentially in the future, if we kind of get some more funds, we can, work to equalize those different rates and bring some equality there as far as, what we're paying, kind of to get back how we were paying prior to January 1st. Also, just to note, as far as Gold Seal, if you are Gold Seal, you would receive the rate. So for a family child care home, or that was Gold Seal, for an infant would be 42, the example I gave, and then the Gold Seal would be 840. So that'd be the 42 plus the 840. So Gold Seal would make 50/40 as long as their private pay rate was at least 50/40. So that is there as well. Just wanted to kind of highlight that. We put our rates in the platform, and so as far as the actions required and what providers need to do at this point, one is wait before you do anything as far as your rates are concerned. Wait for coalition staff to contact you to sign your amendment. That's going to be a simple process. It's going to be logging into the provider portal, pulling up that amendment, and signing it. That's it. Everything is going to be prepped and ready for you. That's all you need to do is sign that amendment. Then once that amendment has been signed, obviously you can examine, hey, this is what the coalition's new rates are. This is what my private pay rates are. Look to see if you want to maybe increase your rates, give your parents notice, your private pay parents notice, that kind of thing. Then at that point, if you do decide to increase your rates, your private pay rates, you are more than able to do that. Once your amendment has been certified, just go into the provider portal, into your profile and rate section, and you can increase your rates there. So that's kind of a high level kind of walkthrough of what happened here, how did we get that funding, and then what are the next steps as far as providers, as far as what to do with your rate increase. Now, with that, we have Diane Bowman, who is our Vice President of Family Services, on the call as well. So if we have any questions related to how the family services, co-payments, that kind of thing, John Patrick, our CFO, is on the call as well. As far as rates and calculations and things like that. But at this point, we kind of wanted to open it up to the providers to see if you guys have any questions. You can submit those questions in the Q&A box. You can also raise your hand. If you raise your hand, then I can actually allow you to talk. Obviously, keep in mind that this is recorded for providers to watch moving forward. So any question you ask will obviously those providers will be able to benefit from that as well. So that at this point, we'll kind of open it up to that and see what kind of questions that you guys might have. I do see a question right now in the box. Why are the rates different to begin with between facility and home? John, do you want to take a stab at that one?
I can, and Mark can also chime in if I do not do an adequate job here, but I know that what the Office of Early Learning did is they looked at all of the market rates for the entire state, and apparently the market rates are different for family child care homes versus licensed facilities, licensed centers. It was really the market rate that generated these rates that we're implementing now. And I think even the way it is, I believe we reached 75% of the market rate on most of those rates. I mean, the Office of Early Learning had a large formula they used to calculate for every care level. And, we can give specifics if providers want the specifics, but the short answer is that the rates were based on the current market rates in Polk County.
Right. The next question, and both of these are kind of similar, are how long will these new rates last, and what do rates look like going forward for 7/1 of 21?
Okay, and I can answer that too. And these are permanent rate changes. So that's the simple answer. And right now, the rates will not decrease. We anticipate the funding to be there next year on July 1st. And really our intent, as Mark alluded to, was to even increase these rates more in the future, funding, based on the amount of funding that we get. But right now, these are permanent rate changes. They will not change.
Thank you, John. The next question is for private pay parents. If they can't afford a significant increase in their private pay rates because they're raising them to match ours, are providers able to discount the private pay rates to what they can afford for private pay parents, or must we end care for them if they can afford the unexpected increase? So, I mean, essentially what they're saying is, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Loven, but if you increase your rates to match our new rates, then that's going to price a lot of your private pay parents out of childcare because of that. So you got a couple different options there, and Diane or John can chime, or Cheryl or whoever can chime in too. But one, you don't have to increase your rates to what our rates are. That's obviously up to your discretion. So if you feel like your parents can't afford, for infants, $42 a day, you don't have to raise your rates to what ours is. Obviously, that would be leaving funding on the table that would come from us that your parents would pay. As far as how much you charge your private pay parents, by rule you have to charge them the same, your private pay rate, right? So if you have a private pay rate, it should be the same for your private paying parents as well as the ELC. It's just the ELC rates pick up for SR children. If anyone has anything they'd like to add to that, they can. All right, let's see here. What are the new base rates for daycare centers by age? We weren't paid $40 in January for any age group. So the rates, I will share that and put that on the screen real quick.
And I can also just add to that, Kenneth, while you're pulling that up. None of the rates actually reached $40 per care level. If I'm looking at them right now, and it looks like the school age didn't change at all for centers. And it looks like infants went from $27 to $36. So there is, now that's for a facility that does not have the Gold Seal accreditation. Again, keep in mind that Gold Seal will add an additional 20% onto that. But, Kenneth, you want to, you have it up there, so I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah. So and also, you know, based upon what these new rates are, if your private pay rates were less than ours, then we would have paid your private pay rate as well. So, you know, if you weren't paid $40 in January for any age group, possibly could have been maybe because you're the only one that would have paid that much would have been, if I don't know if you're Gold Seal or not, but would have been infants without Gold Seal. But if your infant rate wasn't $40, then it wouldn't have paid $40. As far as what is the new rate for SR funding for VPK wraparound, just like that's still current practice. RAP funding for school readiness is a calculation based upon the rate and the number of hours they attend and the number of hours for the VPK classroom. So that's why there is no specific rate in the actual daily payment rate schedule that is on the screen now. It's based upon a calculation. And if you're unsure what that calculation is, your reimbursement specialist will be more than happy to walk through that calculation with you and figure out kind of what that new RAP calculation would be for you. But in truth, it could be different for every provider because of different rates and different amounts of time that those children are in VPK per day, and the time the child is eligible for care as well. Next question, will the parents be notified or do we need to tell them? So we actually have our provider updates that go out every week. So I know a lot of parents are in there as well. We've put some stuff out on social media about increases, but as far as the actual rate calculations per the parents, that's going to be a provider responsibility to work with all of their parents to figure out what those calculations are and what kind of potential refunds there might be or reimbursements there might be to parents and what those new differential rates are. As far as the parents' co-payments, those did not change, I don't believe. But obviously you might have differential payments, and Coalition has no way of knowing what those are for your parents and that kind of thing. So that would be a provider responsibility. All right, are there any more questions? Any more questions?
Does Cheryl or Diane or Karen or anybody else have anything they want to add to this while we're on?
I was just going to reiterate like what Kenneth said. Please don't change your rates until we've done the amendment, because then that causes a problem on our end. We just can't stress that enough. Just, we'll get with you if you decide you're going to do that, but just hang tight and let us get the amendments completed.
All right. I don't see any more questions. Does anyone else have anything they would like to add? All right. Seeing none.
See the question about the date?
What was that?
There's a question about a payment date.
I didn't see that one. Let's see here. I didn't see one about it. I can't find
It's in the chats. Kenneth.
Will our payment date now be by the 19th instead of the 21st?
Oh, here it is. I see it now. Will our payment date now, the school readiness payment date will not change. It'll remain the same as it is every month. See,
As far as the that grant question about whether or not the federal package is coming soon, we have not received the specifics on that, but we've been told that we do anticipate significant grant dollars coming in out of this package. So that certainly they haven't said anything to it, but they were talking somewhere along the lines of 5 times what we've already put out this year, which is massive. So we have not received any official notification, but there's definitely something coming down the pike.
just to clarify, these rate changes are permanent even after July when it's time for the renewal of contract. Yeah, John said these are permanent rate changes. So these will be the same rates going forward. The only other thing that might change with the rates is, like Mark said, if we can receive some more funding, we might look at possibly bringing some equality to the difference between the licensed centers and the family child care homes. So there could be some other additional increases to some of the rates in the future if we can receive some additional funding there, but they won't be decreasing.
All right, very good.
All right, great. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us. Again, if you have any questions that kind of stem after this from this webinar, feel free to reach out to your contract staff as it pertains to any type of amendments, or your family services staff. It relates to any kind of parent co-payments and things like that, or your reimbursement staff as it pertains to rate calculations and things like that. So we look forward to hearing from you if you do have any questions or concerns. But with that being said, thank you all for joining, and we hope you guys have a great weekend.
Another question popped up regarding VPK funding.
Mark, the question is, will there be any increases in VPK funding in the future?
There is nothing on the docket right now for VPK increases. I mean, they are talking about just an overall FTE increase. But there's no funds that have been set aside right now for extra VPK dollars. Right now, the state is really struggling with, the fact that VPK numbers are still down significantly across the state. They're trying to get the enrollments up, but they haven't said anything about raising the rates.
Okay. All right. I think that's all of them now. All right. Thank you, everyone, and everyone have a great weekend.